Hello, it's me, the Avatar Fanatic, and today we will be talking about who is the most powerful White Lotus member. In this video, we will basically line out all the possible White Lotus members that we can name in ATLA specifically, strictly, because obviously the ones in Korra were basically some Walmart versions of the ones in ATLA. The White Lotus is a shell of what it was. So we're only going to really mention what was in ATLA. Now, Fung obviously doesn't really count because he isn't really a guy who shows any bending in the show. He's just a guy who knows the art of Pai Sho, and I assume he's powerful, but we never see him do anything. So that guy's disregarded. So who we've got to choose from is Bumi, General Iroh, who's the Grand Lotus, Jeong Jeong, Pakku, and Piandao. First, we'll go off with Bumi. I think Bumi is a phenomenal bender. Probably the best earthbender out there. You can argue Toph, you can argue no one else really. He is just a menace. He just kills with strong attacks, durable. He can break you down, sort of like an attrition battle. He can wear you out. He did it with Aang. He gave him challenges and he outsmarted him he had 2 steps ahead of him. When you have a fighter as experienced as Bumi, you have a sort of advantage because you always know what that guy is going to do because you also know the fighter you're going to face in Aang. And Bumi, took a whole village back by himself. He took Omashu back by himself. He completely just lifted buildings on his own will somehow, just made them like levitate or something, and just threw them at Fire Nation soldiers. He can bend out of his head. I think he can bend with those like crystal rocks. I forget what they're even called. I mean, this guy is an absolute straight up menace when it comes to fighting. Next, we'll go with Piandao. Piandao was just the man when it comes to sword fighting in ATLA. He is a complete and utter problem when he gets in a sword fight with you. Now, this could lead him kind of vulnerable to bending, but I assume that he'd beat 80 to 90% of normal benders because his technique is just that good. He's just that good at sword fighting, that positional, tactically, he can just destroy you. He did it against Sokka in the sword fight. He just flicked up sand. He knew where he was by stepping on a stick, and he just sprayed right into his eye immediately. His speed of attacks, his combinations, always knowing where the opponent will be. I mean, he's just a fantastic sword fighter, and he definitely deserves to be in the argument for the most powerful White Lotus member for this reason. Next, we've got Pakku, the Water Tribe member. This guy, I mean, straight up destroyer here. I mean, you see him face those Fire Nation guys, and he just goes into a tornado and just proceeds to destroy them. He faces Katara, proceeds to just totally outclass her in skill. He's very fast with combinations. He'll get to your side and catch you off guard with a jab of water, and that's what he did against Katara. He just kind of disorientated her to the point where he got her tired in a way, even though he was the one moving and she was the one standing. And eventually she just sort of succumbed to that duel and gave him a fair fight, but not nearly one that he had to really struggle for because he was just overpowering kids. Again, we see it with the Fire Nation guys. He just mows them all down really quickly, actually. I think he's capable of making waves. He's capable of making sort of like the straight water attacks, sort of side waves that we kind of see Tonraq kind of use in The Legend of Korra. He did that against Katara. That's the final blow that he gave, and for that reason, he definitely deserves a mention on this list, just as pretty much all of the bending White Lotus and the non-bending in Piandao White Lotus members do. Next, we have Iroh. Here's the Grand Lotus, and maybe Grand Lotus for a reason. You can argue that he's technically the best bender period in the world. He's He can destroy the Bossing Sega wall in one blast. He knows how to redirect lightning. He knows how to conjure lightning. He knows how to make tea. I mean, tea probably gives him so much energy that like he can just go to battle for days because of his technique. Obviously, he can. I mean, fire breath. He took out five. He took out five Earthbender fighters, like Earthbending soldiers or something. I don't know if it was Dai Li or not. He just took out five different guys with five moves, like in a circle, with Zuko, and like he was just like in a circle sort of formation with Zuko and just destroying kids. I mean, this guy was a complete killer when it came to bending. He obviously deserves being on this list. And lastly, we have Jeong Jeong. Now, just because I've put some of these guys into battles with each other in the past, doesn't mean stylistically in the sort of powerful sense that one is going to finish above the other. It doesn't. Jeong Jeong is, again, an absolute technical mastermind when it comes to the firebending. His discipline is ridiculous, kind of like Iroh, second to none. I mean, this guy makes himself into a fireball and just disappears. This guy makes a firewall like he's Phoenix and Valorant or something. Like, this guy is crazy good at firebending, and the fact that he's just able to flee from from the Admiral Zhao, like that easily, like in a flash, that just shows how quick he is in battle, how powerful he would be, how technical he is, how just picture perfect he has all of his mind set up. He knows what he's gonna do, and he does it perfectly with good execution. So, out of all of these guys, I'll put these guys in order, and I might hurt some of your guys' feelings in the comments. But last, I'll put Piandao. Now, I'm sorry, Piandao. Yuhaiki did struggle against Sokka, who is basically very flimsy with the sword. I won't lie. Sokka is surprisingly good with mobility and stuff like that, but he did get kind of struggling against Sokka with the sword, and maybe he just wanted to give Sokka a fight, I guess, like, you know, like make him think he's gonna win, which probably is the case, but at the same time, he got kind of outmatched in certain parts of the battle, and we haven't seen him fight as much as some of these other guys that I have, and for that reason, Piandao is last, even though I love Piandao. He's one of my favorite characters in ATLA. Just a perfect guy, you know. The non-benders need some representation in the series, and he gives it. In fourth place, I'm gonna put Jeong Jeong. I hate to do it, but yeah, I think I'll put Jeong Jeong there. Again, we see him bend a little bit less than some of the other benders in the show, and I think it's really close between fourth and third, to be honest. But I'm gonna put Jeong Jeong in fourth. Again, he's a straight up savage when it comes to bending. He'll beat 99.9% of firebenders out there. And I think that, unfortunately, again, one of my favorite characters, he's so unique. He acts distasteful towards firebending, and he loves waterbending because he's seen the horrors that firebending has caused in his life. And he's sort of emotionally scarred from that. And he's held himself back from firebending unless he has to, because he's so scarred by firebending. Now again, fourth and third is very close, and for that reason, Pakku goes third on my list. Now you can literally flip-flop fourth and third if you want. I don't really care. They're basically the same in terms of skill level. I just find that Pakku has a little bit more bending in the show and a little bit more representation. Again, I like his character a little bit less than, I'd say, Piandao or Jeong Jeong, but I do probably rate him a bit higher as a bender in general than Jeong Jeong or Piandao, because, again, he's shown more. He's beaten Katara in a duel, which almost nobody can do, right? Even though it was Season 1 Katara, it doesn't matter. You beat Katara. Like, Jesus Christ, you're an absolute savage. I mean, you didn't just beat Katara, you kind of decimated Katara in like 40 seconds of a battle. You know, it just shows that his skill level is just up a cut above like 99.99% of waterbenders out there. In second place and first place, we have just the two closest guys. I mean, like, these guys are just both savages. I mean, savages when it comes to bending. You just see these guys bend and you're like, wow, like you just broke a wall that can't be broken, and you just lifted a house that can't be lifted. Like, it's completely, you just took up your one-man army taking over a city, and Iroh, he's in like a 10-man army taking over a city. He's an absolute savage. Both of these guys are absolute savages. But I have to place one first. And unfortunately, it's Iroh. Iroh, my favorite character in ATLA, I'd say, is first place in my book. He's just barely that, just a sort of hair above Bumi in terms of power. He just can destroy anyone with one move. I mean, I'm not sure if Bumi can necessarily do that. He destroyed 5 people in like 5 moves. He used a goddamn chain he's never used before, like nunchucks, like super long nunchucks, and just destroyed 3 people. Like, who does that? Who's so resourceful in battle like Iroh? Like, I've never seen someone so resourceful in battle. Aang, I mean, he uses his stick, but he's learned to use his stick. Iroh just grabbed some random thing off of the street, and he just used it in battle. I think it's cool that we also see like Kyoshi warriors using things like fans, like tradition, like using stuff and tools that you've developed. But with Iroh, it's like he'd repeatedly use tools in his arsenal that you didn't even know was there. First of all, he used that chain thing. Second of all, he used fire breath, which no one knew he had. Third of all, out of nowhere, he showed Zuko that he can just completely conjure lightning. I mean, come on, this guy is an absolute savage. Bumi, second place. Let's give him his credit as well. Again, just lifting houses off of Omashu. I mean, this guy was in a sort of hearse-looking thing, and he was just bending out of it. I mean, and he got himself out and everything like an absolute savage, and took over a city from in a hearse. I mean, this guy's an absolute savage. He outsmarted Aang. He just, every time you see him fight, every time you see him bend, he just destroys. I mean, Iroh and Bumi are some of the strongest guys. I mean, Iroh at his peak, of course, are some of the strongest guys that you see in the show. I mean, Iroh, with all those pull-ups that he did in jail, the mental strength, I mean, he must have. And Bumi at like 120, 140 or something, the mental strength he must have to look like that, like an absolute unit, and just destroy enemies and take over a city that was his for 100 years, really. Just savagery. Just savagery. Both of those guys are just out of this world. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and also share this video to your friends. And this is me, the Avatar Fanatic, out.